the first week of March 2016. And my intention here is to take just a very few minutes and make a few predictions. And I'll start with the extreme one, just because, if I'm wrong, then it'll be obvious and you won't have to listen to the rest. And that is, there was a Star Wars movie that came out recently. Before it came out, there was huge hype. After it came out, the first week, I heard people saying, this is the best Star Wars ever. If you don't like this movie, I don't even want to be your friend. This has got everything. This is so cool. And by about the third week, everybody I heard was saying, well, it was okay. I liked it. But it needed more of this. It didn't have that. It was lacking this other thing. They're all trying to find what it was lacking. This is my prediction. That in the future, I'd say a year, but humans are slow to notice things. So within just a couple of years, people are going to look back at the Star Wars movies. And this recent one, no matter how much money it's made so far, it is going to be ranked lower than the one with Jar Jar Binks. Now I picked that one because out of the Star Wars franchise, Jar Jar was a horrendous mistake. The marketing people thought, well, here's something that will be cute and entertaining and the children will like. And it was so offensive that everybody since then has ignored most of the rest of that movie and said, yeah, but Jar Jar was in it. I mean, he's totally logical. He's kind of cute and derpy, someone you can associate with. He's got a voice reminiscent of the early Yoda. You can see logically why a marketing team would come up with him. But for some reason, he was a massive mistake, and everybody disliked him. And this most recent Star Wars movie, the first of the third trilogy, is going to go down in history as worse than the one with Jar Jar. Alright, that said, those who are diehard Star Wars fans may want to run away now. I don't intend to talk about Star Wars anymore. And anybody who just wants to look at box office can maybe tune me out now. That's fine. I want to talk about what's going on and why this is happening. Now, over the last 5 years, we have done a series of workings in this world to begin to shift people to a new state of awareness. And the first 2.5 years were all things such deep structure nobody even noticed. This was starting back in October 2010 for 2.5 years after that. All of the things we did, nobody even noticed happening. Even the ones who were paying attention to meta generally weren't noticing. We were working at too deep a level. And we have steadily worked our way up to the surface. And those workings ended in October of 2015. And I finished putting all the final touches on it around the 1st of March this year, so less than a week ago, just a couple of days. And now those changes are becoming obvious. Some of the changes put out in the last 2 years went like this. That which is based in shadow, that is based in fear, based in criticism, destructiveness, is bad for you. It's going to hurt people more and more. It's going to be making them sick. It's going to be taking away their will, making them stupid, making them more submissive. It's going to break them, and I don't want people to get there. Right? So we put workings in to make that which is based in shadow, that which will lead to shadow, or even that which might provoke a shadow response in another person, to make those things stand out in such a way that when you watch them, you get bored with them at first. This is movies, this is people, this is books, this is jobs, anything. You get bored at first and you start to feel frustrated. And the more time you spend, the more that frustration grows until you feel almost angry. You're so frustrated and impatient, and you begin to get disgusted and you can't stand it, and you want to walk away from it, have nothing to do with it. That's the shape of the working. for the very few people who are physically around me now, they can see what I have just shown you before I started this recording. I've shown a modern example of this effect happening, and it's astounding. And my prediction with Star Wars comes from this working. That it was created by Disney, which is a shadow empire. Everything they make, everything about Disney, is designed to create more shadow and more ugliness in the world. And they've kept this mask of we're for children, we're fun, we're playful, that everybody has bought for almost 100 years. But now that they are doing things in shadow, everything that comes from them, increasingly it's seeming boring, it's seeming stupid, it's seeming frustrated. And the more that you study these things, the more they're going to bother you. I've mentioned the television show Gotham. Superheroes are popular right now, Batman being one of the biggest superheroes. And that show is boring and tedious and frustrating and obnoxious, even though they're putting so much money and time into it. This effect is growing stronger every day. The more the energy clears in the world, the more energy that people are bringing in, the more strong these effects are going to be. Yeah, and by clear, I mean, think of the world as having been a kind of desert of energy back in 1950. And all of this energy began to flow in right somewhere around the end of 1952. And when it came in, at first it was just soaked into the ground instantly and disappeared and you never saw it. And after a while, when it started to build up, all you got was everything was muddy and mucky back in the 70s, say. And it just felt like you were dragging your feet to make anything happen as you trudged through the mud, and it got worse and worse. And through the 80s, when it started to build up, but it's just, a layer of water, maybe up to your knees, that you're wading through, and everything muddy underneath it. It's even worse. And though people are trying, you get some wonderful things that came out of the 80s. Some of the music of the time is astounding. Some very powerful effects come out. In the 70s as well. Right? Pink Floyd did some music that will last for generations in popularity. But so much of it was difficult. The meta community was saying, everything, it feels like I'm slogging through mud. Why is everything so hard? It's so impossible. And since then, the energy has continued to build up faster and faster, until at this point the water is well above your head in this metaphor. Right? And this isn't, oh my goodness, we're going to drown. This is, it's like in a dream where if you realize you're underwater, you can breathe underwater and you're fine. Yeah, you're fine. And so you start to breathe and you start to swim and you start to explore, and you're not trudging through the mud anymore. And there are currents in the water carrying new things to you and carrying you to new things. The energy's like that. But right now, because there's still so much turmoil and tumult, change, it's constantly stirring up the muddy stuff underneath. And the energies have been kind of polluted, muddy, difficult to work with. Even when you sit and breathe and ground, you still feel a bit blech. Right? That's finally changing now. There is enough of this energy here. It's deep enough, it's rich enough, it's soaked into the world enough that the sediment is settling back to the bottom. And you can swim and play and breathe. You can take a deep breath and bring in wonderful healing energy. You can look outside and see new colors and taste food and have new tastes. Right? It's all changing now that the dust is settling. And for some reason it brings up a story or something my chemistry teacher once told me, that, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the solutes. The messiness stuff is settling out, and those of us who are part of the solution. We're moving in the water. We're feeling things we never have, right? So what happens is people are beginning to trust, not consciously, they don't know it. Their guts are starting to trust that life isn't going to poison them. And they're grounding more and more and letting old stuff go. They're bringing new energies in, and they've got more and more of the healthy energies flowing through them every day. And as a result, they're changing. And so these effects that when we put them in place 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, they showed only a little. Only those who were really paying attention could sense this sort of boredom or frustration. Now everybody's doing it. Again, I reference the example I just gave the local folks. And this is going to happen to this Star Wars. That you watch it the first time and you thought, oh wow, lightsabers, Darth Vader, spaceships, the Force, all this cool stuff that we really like. But next time you go back and watch it, you're going to look at it and just feel bored and disappointed by it. And you won't be sure why. And over the next few years, that boredom and disappointment is going to become more and more obvious. And every new thing that comes out, books, movies, television, video games, every new relationship, every new job, every new government, every new politician, everything that comes out that is one of those 3 pieces of shadow I said earlier, you're going to look at it and you're going to dislike it. You say, that's gross, I don't like it, or that's boring, it's stupid, I'm not interested. And when something comes out that it's got healthy energy in it, you're going to say, I don't know why, but I love this. This is amazing. This is so cool. Right? I've seen some of this with, I've mentioned the Flash television show. People watching this saying, oh wow, the best television ever, I love these people. And missing the fact that it's a really lame and mediocre television show. It's got so much of the new energy in it that people are fascinated by it and they love it. You're going to meet people in your life. Wow, look at that, they're so amazing. And others, well, I've always liked this person, but now every time they open their mouth, I wish they'd just go away. And it doesn't matter if that person is your parent or your lover or even yourself. You're going to feel this bored, frustrated, annoyed, and disgusted, and less tolerance. And this is healthy behavior. This is your immune system beginning to react to the shadow and reject it, and to seek out the light and embrace it. So, the first prediction was Star Wars. The second one here is that a huge number of game franchises, of television shows, of movie series, of books that have been popular over this year, 2016, are going to fail. New movies that come out, even if the marketing team say our focus panel shows all of these things is going to be a great success, they're going to flop at the box office. And even ones that, because of sufficient hype, if you advertise something enough, people will go see it, even if it's crap. But even the ones that have an initial box office hit, they're not going to be like Deadpool, that just keeps growing and growing and people keep spending more and more money. There are going to be a huge number of changes. You're going to see this across your society, and you're going to see this in yourself and your friends. Wow, we've liked all of these things, but this one, this sucks. And this is not going to be some subtle thing that I need to encourage you to be aware and watch for. It's going to be so obvious. Why does this suck so terribly? It's always been good. You're also going to see it in, say, politicians. And I'm not to pick anyone in particular just because he's a name I've heard a lot of people mention recently. People like Donald Trump. People who are marketing things. Arnold Schwarzenegger's another. They've been sort of shiny and popular. Tony Blair's another. People, even the people who don't like him, these people, they stand out to you and say, wow, there's something amazing about them. Over this next year, you're going to look at them, and every time they talk, you're going to think, oh, I want to change the channel. I want to do something else. This person's horrible. What the hell are we thinking with that person? You're going to find this. you're going to find groups and organizations that you've supported, been a part of, that you just are bored and disgusted with. And it's going to be so obvious that they will be talking about this even in the shadow-controlled media, like, I don't know, newspapers or broadcasting news networks. For some reason, all these things are failing and we can't figure out why. It's going to be wonderful, but it's going to be fascinating. And I encourage you to watch for it. Now, in a slightly different direction, because the 70s, the 80s, even part of the 90s, they were such a slog through the mud with the new energies coming in but not being strong yet. Everybody who's been working in the meta, not everybody, just about everybody who's been paying attention, they've gotten fat. A huge number of people have put on weight, more so than usual. Even people who aren't paying attention, the general tendency towards obesity or just being overweight in your world has risen immensely in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And this is reasonable because it was such a slog and the systems were so confused. Sometimes they'd bring in healthy energy, sometimes they'd bring in toxins. They could never relax, they could never trust. Your bodies have tried to save up as much resources as possible. Now that the energies are finally rich enough and present enough and clear enough, all of these people, including maybe some of you listening, who have been overweight, you're going to start losing weight. You're going to start getting healthy. You're going to feel an interest in exercise. Things like carrots, which, unless you're a health food nut, carrots are pretty lame. And carrots just don't taste good. Green beans, ugh. Right? But you're going to find that some of these things that are healthy for you, they start tasting really amazing. You're going to, at some point, bite into a green bean or a carrot and say, wow, what the hell is that? That's better than ice cream. And so some of these healthier foods, they're going to start tasting a lot better to you. Not just you who are in the meta community, but an obese person, 200-kilo person living in a trailer park somewhere who's never studied anything. Right? They're suddenly going to find that the new foods are tasting better. And some of the old things, the potato chips and the diet sodas and the stuff that's so toxic, it's just not going to taste good. They're going to taste it and feel bored and disgusted, frustrated and impatient. Just like the movies and televisions of politicians, you're going to find this in food. And what's going to happen is worldwide, starting probably a year ago, but becoming obvious in the next year, people are going to start losing weight. Quit being obese, start becoming healthier, start being more interested in exercising. When exercise quits being, oh, that horrible, hateful thing I have to do, and it starts being, oh, this is really cool. I can go skating. I can, go climb a hill or a tree or go rock climbing in the park. This is going to become more and more attractive to you, and people are going to start being healthier. Now, some of you in that time where I said people are getting fatter have actually gotten sort of super thin. There's a certain subgroup I'd call sources who have responded to the chaos in this time by shutting everything down, refusing to eat, refusing to have friends, refusing to go out of the house. And they're just a bunch of really scrawny people. They haven't been doing it right. They've been fighting the energies. But the idea now is that it's safe. And these people are going to start coming out of the rooms and talking to people. They're going to be not so scared and overwhelmed anymore. So you're going to see changes in the super scrawny people too. In general, there's going to be a movement towards healthy. Now, 50, 100 years from now, a few generations, humans are going to be shorter. This is part of the phylogeny, the evolution that's happening. But over the next 5 years, people are going to start getting taller, including, very likely, you. It's as if you've been carrying a weight on your shoulders and it's compressed your spine and your joints. And you're going to find that you get, maybe it's only a centimeter or two, but that you start getting taller over the next few years. It's going to happen to just about everybody, only those who are really fighting. And those people are going to have knee trouble, ankle trouble, hip trouble, back trouble, and going to be getting more and more sort of crippled. Those who are paying attention, they're going to get taller. And see, this is a prediction that you can physically notice and physically measure. And so if in a year's time it hasn't happened, you can say, clearly this guy's talking out something other than his mouth, right? He's just spraying noise around. I predict this will happen. And while it's happening, you are likely to experience growing pains. You're going to have pains in your knees, in your ankles, in your hips, in the joints of your legs, in the bones, the two bones in the lower leg, the larger bone in the upper leg, and the tendons and ligaments. You're going to find them sometimes cramping. You're going to wake up at night with cramps. You're going to be walking or running, and suddenly there are cramps in your legs. It's something you probably experienced when you were 10 or 11. These kind of growing pains. A lot of people did. Many people are going to experience those. When they happen, don't panic. Don't rush to see a doctor. Stop and feel them and celebrate that in that very moment, those muscles, ligaments, joints, tendons, that they're shifting and growing and becoming stronger and healthier. And you're actually going to end up a bit taller out of this. You're going to be taller, you're going to be thinner, you're going to be healthier. All of the things that matter to you. Your hair is going to look better for those people who've had trouble. Now, those who are already bald, it's probably too late for you. But those who are starting to go bald, and a lot of people are worried about that, it's going to stop if you're doing things right. The energy behind baldness is not something I'm going to talk about now. It's boring to me. But the energy behind it is no longer possible. And so you're going to stop going bald. Baldness is going to be a thing that is very, very rare in the future of the human species. You're all going to look like the people on these hair commercials where they have vast amounts of money spent on product and half a dozen people making their hair look good. Increasingly, you're all going to look like that. Right? So when you combine these things, that is, people who are doing it right are going to be more interesting, more shiny, more appealing, and you won't know why. They're going to be thinner, they're going to be healthier, they're going to be eating better, they're going to be exercising, not because they have to, because these things sound good. So their bodies are going to be healthier, they're going to be taller, their hair's going to be healthier, their skin's going to be healthier. You're going to find yourself surrounded by a lot of really beautiful people in the next 8 years. And after that it'll stabilize, but it's going to spend a few years changing. And then those who are intentionally choosing hate, fear, taking advantage of others, the things of shadow, they're going to look more and more like the Emperor in Star Wars, or like Darth Vader when he takes off his mask. You are going to start noticing a really dramatic difference that you can see with your eyes. These people doing it wrong, they're going to have no energy, they're going to be tired, they're going to whine, they're going to complain, and you won't be able to stand them. You'll be bored and disgusted and annoyed with them. And those who are doing it right are going to be so attractive and beautiful. And physically, they and you are going to change and become more beautiful. Right? So these are just a few predictions that come out of this. But all of them are physically testable. I'm no longer talking about the world of energy that only the metas can sense. I'm no longer talking about power filtering nodes or the engineer and the poet tuning nodes or the psi points, things that you have to be a meta to even perceive. These are things that everybody will be able to see. And you don't have to sit and study the data and look for an alpha of 0.05. They're going to be huge. As you get taller, as you become more beautiful, as you start enjoying life more and playing more and dancing more and noticing new colors in the world, you're going to notice whole new fields of art coming up, whole new kinds of music. Now I will say one thing, because I want to avoid a little confusion. For instance, a movie like Ghostbusters. Not a particularly outstanding movie, but very, very popular in its time. If you watch that, or the music of ABBA, Dancing Queen, horrible, horrible music, but very popular. Because that's popular in your past, you're going to have it tied to all these warm, fuzzy memories. And so even though you might look at it now, or someone who's never seen Ghostbusters or listened to ABBA, they might listen to it now and say, oh, that's terrible. Those of you who have experience with it, you will still have positive feelings. So don't expect to find this bored, frustrated, impatient, disgusted with things of your past. If you're strongly enough tied to them, your memories will cloud the actuality. Right? Rather, look for it in new things things you've never seen before. Just look for movies and television shows that should be great successes and you just find them boring and stupid. Batman v Superman's likely to be this way because it's got so much of the ugliness in it. It's still probably going to make money because it's so heavily advertised and it's Batman and Superman and, Ben Affleck. But you're going to see this. Yeah. And within a year, as these changes start happening, if you're doing healthy and beautiful stuff in your life and you're starting to look healthy, but you get involved in making a movie that's shadow, one of those 3 phases of shadow I spoke of earlier, this will be creating a shadow response in others because it's based in shadow. Then you are doing shadow things. Even if you're doing everything right in your life, while you're making that movie, you're going to get sick. Cast members, directors, cameramen, gaffers, they're going to be getting sick. They're going to be falling and injuring themselves. They're going to be getting ugly and everything's going to go wrong. The things that are being done in shadow, the cost to make them is going to go up just by a vast amount because everything's going to go wrong. And little films, little video games that individuals make with very little funding are going to be vast successes. It's just everything's going to work out. Right? So just a couple of caveats to watch for. But to summarize all this, this is the first time that I've been able to, all right, my comment that 95% of your world is gay, that's something that you'll be able to notice eventually. But for the most part, my predictions have been at a meta level that you can't see. These are all predictions at the physical level. Things that should be successful being boring and frustrating and disgusting. Things that should be boring being outstanding. People, including you, getting more physical, more beautiful, more healthy, having healthier hair, baldness stopping, obesity disappearing from your world. Not instantly, it's going to start fading, but over the next 20 years, it's just going to fade to a very, very rare condition. Right, these are all things you can test. They're all things you can watch for. They're all things that are happening right now. And it's fascinating because this is the year of Revelation 2016. This is the year when you can finally start noticing these things in a very, very physical way. And I encourage you to watch for them and be excited about them as they happen.